The world didn't slowly fall apart, it snapped. One day a gate opened, monsters poured out, and everything familiar was erased in minutes. Cities burned, people vanished, and survival stopped being a choice. For 10 straight years, he fought because stopping meant dying. Days blurred into months, months into years, until time lost all meaning. With nothing but a sword in his hands, he carved through anything in front of him. Fear burned out of him completely. Pain became routine, death became background noise. He didn't feel heroic. He felt empty and efficient. Then the thing that ended his world finally stood before him. A colossal monster, towering so high it blotted out the sky, looked down at him like debris that hadn't been cleaned up yet. It told him the world was already dead, that it was the one who destroyed it, and that all his effort was a waste of talent. Instead of killing him, it offered something worse. Submit, become its weapon, live as a tool. The offer lasted half a second. He laughed. Not out of courage, out of exhaustion. Bro thinks he's the final boss. Cute, the giant swung first, a mountain-sized fist crashing down. He slipped past it and sliced through the fingers with surgical precision, but the monster didn't even flinch. A second strike came, and this time he was swatted out of the air like trash, barely blocking as his bones screamed. The giant mocked him, told him to struggle all he wanted. To it, he was just an insect. Blood poured down his body as his arms started to fail, but he pushed forward anyway. Kill issue or not, quitting wasn't an option. He charged again, leaping straight for the monster's chest, only to be smashed down once more. As he staggered up, barely standing, his eyes locked onto a single detail. A pendant hanging at the giant's chest. Too deliberate, too exposed. That was it, the weak point. The monster raised its sword to finish things, and he made his choice. He gripped his blade like a spear and hurled it with everything left in his body. The sword ripped through the pendant, punched straight through the monster's chest, and kept flying into the sky like it wasn't done yet. The giant froze mid-swing. Its chest regenerated, but the pendant stayed shattered. It screamed, cursed, and lunged forward with its last strength, only for its massive body to crumble apart mid-step. The monster that ended the world collapsed like dust. He hit the ground right after, broken, soaked in blood, barely conscious. Lying there, staring up at the sky, he saw a shooting star streak past. After 10 years of hell, that was the last thing he noticed. He called it beautiful. Then everything went black. When the story starts again, it doesn't look heroic at all. A man in sandals strolls through the city when an alarm suddenly blares. He's standing in front of the Rank B Namsan Gate in Seoul's Yongin district, a zone that legally requires a full team of registered heroes. Staff announce ID scans. Civilians aren't allowed. He looks up at the gate, shrugs, and kicks his way straight through it. Alarms explode. An unregistered intruder has entered the gate. Already inside, he wanders into the forest like he's on a casual hike until a group of heroes calls out to him, asking if he's lost. They invite him along, immediately roasting his outfit. No armor, no weapon, just a backpack. He looks like a confused homeless guy who clicked on the wrong stream. They assume he got ditched by his team. The leader warns him seriously, walking into a gate like this without a license is suicide. Get trained. Pass the test. This is a C-rank gate, not YouTube highlights. He tells him he understands they're trying to help. He just doesn't remember asking. He walks away. They let him go, calling him a crazy bastard and figuring reality will teach him a lesson soon. Gates aren't like online clips. Then a shadow falls over him. He looks up. A giant monster looms overhead. He sighs, slips off his backpack and mutters that it's been 10 years since he last farmed. The monster swings. The attack hits empty air. He's already gone. He steps in and throws a single punch. The monster's head detonates clean off its body. No effort. No follow-up, just erased. The corpse drops to its knees as blood paints the ground. He lands casually and mutters that nothing's changed since back then. He checks his reflection in the monster's blade, looks faintly surprised, then cuts into the body and pulls out a low-grade magic stone. In the past, he wouldn't have bothered. Now, he pockets it. Movement flashes. More monsters rush him. One swings, he ducks. He clenches the stone and hurls it like a rock. One head explodes. The other two charge. He drops his bag and gets to work. Somewhere else, the earlier team chats nervously, wondering if he's dead yet. If he's really an intruder, agents should already be on the way. With a gate this rank, elite B ranks would respond. As long as he doesn't attack first, he'll survive. She jokes he's probably trembling, waiting for rescue. They're wrong. It's the monster's trembling. He cracks one in the skull, holding back so it doesn't explode. Another attacks from behind. He sidesteps. The weapon slams into the ground. He's already behind it. One kick tears a chunk out of its head and drops it instantly. He calmly extracts the stones, counting out loud. 3 more. The haul's mediocre but workable. That's when Control Center agents arrive and surround him, demanding his registration card. If he's unregistered, he needs to come with them. He looks at them like they're NPCs, and asks why they're yapping. They tell him to comply, he says he's busy and they're annoying. They reach for cuffs and warn him that resistance means force. One grabs his hand and tells him any injuries are on him. He grabs the agent's wrist instead, squeezes, and tells them to stop bothering him and leave. And just like that, the tutorial is over. The agents snap their batons out like they're about to do something impressive, and he immediately clocks the grade 4 magic seals carved into them. Orc deterrent at best, paperweights at worst. He twists one wrist, drops the guy instantly, and gives them a board warning to leave now if they enjoy walking upright. Skill issue, really. This squad showed up like NPCs with confidence but no patch notes. They rush him anyway, yapping louder than his alarm clock on a Monday morning. He bats both batons aside like they're foam props, slips a desperate kick, and drives his knee into one man's ribs hard enough to fold him in half. Without stopping, he pivots and kicks another agent square in the chest, sending him flying backward like lost luggage. Elite squad? Cute. One guard finally realizes the plot armor is not on their side and freezes in place. Bad choice. The man vanishes from his vision entirely, and before fear can fully register, a brutal hit slams into the guard's gut, knocking the breath clean out of him. As the guy coughs and gags, the man casually asks if registered heroes only get dispatched when something illegal happens inside the gate. Didn't ask for permission, just collecting information. The guard nods frantically, explaining that without illegal activity, no backup gets sent. When the man asks about rift zones, the explanation spills out fast. Monsters came through unstable dimensional passages, their byproducts became energy, governments locked them behind gates, and anything not fully stabilized is labeled a rift zone. Translation: dangerous, regulated, and very annoying. The man listens with the enthusiasm of someone waiting for a loading bar to finish. When the guard admits trespassing, any gate auto-reports him, and that rift zones still trigger Hero Association responses, the man loses interest completely. He grabs the guard by the face mid-sentence, ignores being called insane, and throws him back into the trees like expired trash. Calling them nothing special, he walks away as threats get screamed behind him. Back when the giant collapsed after its pendant shattered, the man lost consciousness almost immediately. As the monster screamed something meaningless, he felt himself being dragged away, convinced death finally caught up. Instead, he woke up drifting downward, pulled toward another body. Turns out reincarnation comes without a tutorial, and the new body belonged to a dying man named Seo Dojin. Dojin calmly asked for one thing before fading away: disappear quietly if his wish was granted. Immediate no. The man laid it out instead. 10 years of non-stop war, betrayal by someone he trusted, a ruined country, and everyone he cared about already dead. No attachments left, no regrets left, just momentum. When he asked if Dojin felt the same, the answer was almost yes. Almost. Dojun still had his grandmother and his little sister Yunyoung, and he didn't want them to keep living scared and poor. That was the line. The man sighed and listened as the wish formed. Then the scene cuts to Seoul's gas and digital complex, now a hero marketplace packed wall-to-wall with gate byproducts and overpriced confidence. Daejeon dumps blood-soaked magic stones onto a counter, shocking the cashier who tries to stay professional. After sorting them, the guy proudly announces a 40% fee like he expects applause. Daejeon shuts it down instantly. 40%? Bro thinks he's the government. The cashier doubles down, adds fees for sorting, coffee, towels, and existence, then grins and mentions C-rank heroes backing the shop. Bad move. The goons walk in expecting a payday, and instead one of them gets smashed into the counter before the cashier can blink. Smoke rolls off Dojin's fist as he steps forward, arms flexed, aura heavy. New deal, 1%, fair price, permanent. The cashier nods like his life depends on it, because it absolutely does. Call your goons, he already called natural selection. At home, Dojun drops the cash on the table, stunning his grandmother and Yunyoung. He lies smoothly, saying it's money from an old friend whose business finally took off. Grandma doubts he even has friends, which is fair, but lets it go. Yunyoung asks if they're rich now, and he says yes, patting her head as she sprints around the room doing victory laps. Watching her run, he remembers Dojin's final wish, a house safer than anywhere else in Korea for his family. That kind of safety costs absurd money, but once his power returns, it's pocket change. Right now, though, he's barely at 10% strength. As someone pounds on the door demanding to know if he's inside, the reminder hits hard. Plot armor? No. Plot loading. Next episode, plot loading. He tells his family to stay put and opens the door to two familiar faces. Loan sharks with bad breath and worse attitudes, here to collect the 48 million loan the old Dojon took out for hospital bills. They grin, confident, saying he clearly made money from the gate and the contract says it's time to pay up. One of them keeps yapping, running his mouth like he already won, so Dojon sidesteps him and cracks the other straight in the face, launching him into the wall like drywall was optional. The trash talker freezes, eyes wide, and Dojin calmly explains that he already paid back over 9 million more than the original loan, meaning if math still works, they owe him. Panic kicks in fast. The guy stammers, asking if he's really Seo Dojin, and Dojin tells him to warn his boss that he'll visit personally, then drops him too. Debt collectors really thought today was their day. NPC behavior at its finest. Sob basality. Later at the mall, Yoon stares at a wall of stuffed animals and quietly asks if she can have a teddy bear. Dojin tells her clothes are done, so she can grab whatever she wants. As Dojin's memories blend with his own, emotions creep back in, mostly sympathy, strangely warm and very unfamiliar. Despite being half-siblings, the real Dojin was always kind to her, and that's aside, she's dead. She picks a small rabbit and asks if it's okay, but he casually yanks a massive bear off the display and hands it to her. Her eyes light up instantly, and he reminds her not to hold back, making her laugh as they move toward the food court. That's when an unwanted voice calls his name, and a walking ego wrapped in designer clothes shows up with 2 bodyguards. The woman sneers, asking why he's dressed so well when he's nothing special, then looks at Yoon and asks who the kid is, throwing in a jab about whether he messed her up like her mother. Dojang glares, the guards stare back, and Yoon innocently asks who the old witch is. The woman presses, mocking Yoon's clothes and calling them pathetic, just like her mother. That's where Dojan's patience dies. He calls her ugly as an orc and twice as dumb, and the truth comes spilling out. He was born out of wedlock, grew up poor, lost his mother at 7, then spent over a decade neglected in his biological father's house. Once the second wife had her own child, he was ignored completely and eventually kicked out, ending up at his grandmother's place with a half-sister he'd never even met. The sword god decides that's enough and promises it'll be different now. Dojan finally stands tall, saying they lived under the same roof for 12 years and she still disgusts him, from her looks to her personality. He calls her brain useless, points out her massive inferiority complex toward anyone prettier than her, which is basically the entire planet, and says his half-sister is better in every way because she actually cared if he lived or starved. The woman explodes, demanding to know what he just said, but before it escalates further, another woman approaches and greets Dojan warmly like nothing ever happened. The older woman asks if he's been doing well and tells him to come home sometimes, and Dojin snaps back, calling her a fake hypocrite who tormented him for 12 years straight. When she mentions his father worrying about him, he says it makes him sick. They don't have that kind of relationship, and he tells her to disappear. Her smile drops instantly, and she walks away muttering that this isn't the Dojin she knew, the one who would bow his head even after being slapped for no reason. That Dojin is dead. In the car, the daughter fumes, asking why they didn't crush him, while her mother quietly orders a bodyguard to confirm why someone who should be dead is still alive. As the daughter nervously asks if her mother really tried to kill Dojin, the answer is deflection and cold fury. The mother promises to handle it herself, calling him a low-born bastard and swearing he'll be erased no matter what. Turns out the real monster in the family wasn't subtle at all. 10 years ago, the first rift zone opened, monsters poured out, heroes rose, mana stones replaced energy, and now the entire world revolves around gates. If you want money, power, or safety, you become a hero. Dojan heads to Yango, a hero registration building, where a smoking gang boss greets him sarcastically, asking if he's here to pay debts. Behind him stand the same loan sharks he already folded. The boss laughs, saying he can't believe Dojin showed up after wrecking his men, but Dojin calmly says the more he thinks about it, the more it feels like a loss on his end. He wants compensation for physical, mental, and material damage. Second Dojin's sudden attitude shift, and judging by how badly his men were trashed, realizes something clicked inside a gate. Awakening confirmed, and just like that, the board flips again. The boss smirks and asks if Dojin wants to hear what happened to other punks who thought Awakening made them special. As he talks, more men file in, surrounding the room, confidence inflated by numbers. He brags that those guys all ended up D-rank trash anyway, and that he's got plenty of D-ranks ready to shut Dojin up. Dojin stays quiet for a beat, then calmly tells him to sit down. He's not finished talking yet. One goon loses patience and charges, yelling about respect and how unbelievable this attitude is. Dojan reaches out mid-rant, plucks the guy's glasses off his face with surgical calm, then cracks him so hard he flies across the room. Another catches a punch to the cheek before he can blink, and Dojin casually points out they're just loan sharks running forged IDs and paperwork scams. Didn't ask, didn't care, already cooked. The last one rushes in and gets wiped instantly, leaving the room silent except for heavy breathing and fear. Dojin turns to the boss and gives him instructions, not a request. Forge a hero ID. Perfect. Untraceable. Finished by tomorrow. The boss and his remaining goons stare, finally realizing they're dealing with something far above their pay grade. The boss tries to calculate it out loud. This isn't D rank, probably C rank. No way, maybe B rank? His voice cracks as he bows and agrees instantly. Dojin rests a hand on his shoulder and adds one more question, asking if Hong Heju ordered him killed. The hesitation is enough. Dojin squeezes down on his collarbone until the scream answers took. The boss breaks, admitting she wanted Dojin buried in debt until he ended his own life. When Dojin asks if that's why he was thrown into a gate, the boss swears that wasn't him. Tossing a debtor into a gate risks losing the money, and he insists he's telling the truth. Dojin connects the dots and names Kang Cholu as the one who dragged him in, ordering everything they have on him by tomorrow. The room bows as Dojin leaves. On the way back, he remembers the original Dojin's wish to keep his family safe, and he quietly commits to it. The next day, a freshly forged B-rank hero card is ready. He swipes it at the terminal, and it verifies cleanly, but the system warns he's below the recommended level and suggests reconsidering. Dojin frowns. The warning repeats. He walks in anyway. The Bomzium tunnel gate loads in, a B-rank dungeon that recommends at least 2 A-rank hunters. Tunnel-type gates are narrow, dark, and brutal for solo clears. If luck turns bad, you're alone with hundreds of monsters and nowhere to run. Dojin flexes his fingers, unimpressed, and steps forward. A serpent slithers out, and Dojin pulls on his new gloves, smiling slightly. The snake lunges and he blitzes past it, ripping the mana crystal straight out of its chest before it realizes it's dead. Another charges with venom-dripping fangs, a black fang snake. One graze means paralysis. Dojin drops low, pivots clean, and slices it apart. He checks his gloves, impressed. 300,000 well spent. The venom barely registers. More serpents pour in, and he tears through them, body splitting, poison spraying, tunnel echoing with chaos. Afterward, he digs through corpses for magic stones. In his old world, vipers drop stones maybe 3% of the time. Hundreds killed later, he hasn't found a single one. Unlucky run. Skill issue, apparently. He reaches a pile of skeletons shrouded in black miasma and looks up as the boss reveals itself, a massive black fang viper. Dojan sighs. Not ideal, but workable. He charges in and lands a full-power strike, only to feel his wrist sprain as the recoil sends him flying back. He barely dented the skull. That's new. The viper slams him into the wall with its tail and snaps forward with a bite he barely dodges. He counters with another punch, but it barely does damage. As expected, this one's hide is built different. If his original power were back, this would be a one-frame delete. Right now, not so much. Spotting an old sword buried in the ground, Dojan grabs it and pulls it free. Rusted, worn, barely hanging on, but age is just a number. Technique is everything. He tells the blade he's borrowing it, then kicks off the ground and launches himself into the air as the serpent looks up. Consider it an honor, he mutters, tightening his grip. The strike lands in a flash of yellow energy, and he's already on the ground when the sound catches up. The sword shatters, shards flying past him as the viper collapses. If he'd missed, that would have been catastrophic. Close enough. He rips one fang from the corpse and examines it. Too short for a longsword, but usable with work. Worth it. This job still pays better than anything else. Leaving the dungeon, he's annoyed it took so long and reminds himself that getting his power back is priority one. He's also very glad his old comrades aren't around to see him like this. Back at the Magic Stone shop, another seller argues with the clerk over a 40% commission, asking for a regular's discount. Dojin watches silently. He's seen this movie before. The clerk shuts the customer down immediately, saying their rates are already the cheapest around. The gate center alone takes 5% off the top, and the remaining 45% keeps the shop alive. He even adds that since they don't keep records, customers get the bonus perk of casual tax fraud. The customer admits that part is tempting, then squints and asks what happened to the clerk's face. The clerk snaps back that some crazy bastard wrecked the guards and him along with them. The customer laughs it off, saying that's what happens when you trust C-rank guards. Rank's just a government label anyway. Skill is what matters. A licensed newbie standing around a shop isn't the same as someone bleeding in a dungeon every week. The clerk tells him to stop yapping and leave. The guy shrugs, says they've known each other a long time, and if the clerk ever needs help, just ask. That's when Dojin walks in. The air shifts instantly. The clerk freezes and blurts out that this is the guy who attacked him. The customer slowly looks Dojin up and down, scanning him like a menu, then smirks. Tall, pretty boy face. He asks how Dojin can call himself a hero while beating up civilians. The clerk jumps in fast, grinning, saying this guy's a 7-year veteran with deep connections, so picking a fight would be bad for business. Dojin doesn't blink. He tells the guy to mind his business and get lost. That alone ticks him off. The man clenches his fist, aura tightening, clearly considering it, then remembers the leading cause of hero deaths isn't monsters, it's other heroes. His instincts scream. He backs off, muttering that he's busy anyway, leaving the clerk stunned. Broken buck. Dojin tosses a bag of crystals onto the counter and tells the clerk to count it. The clerk opens it and freezes. All high grade, no filler, no trash. He asks who Dojin even is as he totals it up. 150 million. Dojin exhales, annoyed. After a full day of hunting, that's all. Rent is due. Pay up. The clerk starts to bring up the commission, then catches Dojin's look and aborts the thought instantly. 1%. That makes the payout 148.5 million. The clerk desperately wants to say 40%, but survival instincts win. He says he needs his boss's approval. Dojin tells him to hurry. Now. The clerk calls his boss and starts explaining, but Dojin snatches the phone mid-sentence. He tells the voice on the other end to listen carefully. He wants his money now. The boss sighs, says he understands, and asks for his employee's phone back. Dojan glances sideways and flicks his wrist, sending the phone smashing into the wall. Boss agreed. Money now. The clerk nods furiously and starts pulling cash and transfers together, while Dojan casually says he hopes their next trade is just as cool. The clerk wonders when exactly cool started meaning financial hostage situation. 10 minutes later, the boss storms in, demanding to know why no one's answering and what that call was about. The clerk quits on the spot. He's done. Mentally. Spiritually. Professionally. The boss spots the phone embedded in the wall and immediately makes another call. He asks someone named Julian to come over. Something came up. Moments later, a woman walks straight toward the shop as people part automatically. Cameras turn. Whispers spread. Celebrity status, hero edition. She steps inside, and the clerk greets her before freezing again. Is she really Hyen Juan, Korea's 4th S-Rank hero? The boss's niece? Juyeon confirms it casually and says she's here because she heard someone's been forcing mana crystal sales and giving her uncle migraines. Back at Dojin's house, Yoonyoung plays with her massive grizzly teddy bear while Dojin trains, clicking his tongue in frustration. Even hunting non-stop, he barely clears 100 million a day. At this pace, he's late. He needs S-rank gates, solo. But mana here is thin. Even absorbing it daily, it'll take years. 3 at least, then he feels it. His head snaps up. He grabs Yoonyoung instantly and tells her to get inside. The house starts shaking. Grandma asks if it's an earthquake. Yoonyoung screams. Dojin says no. Outside space tears open like paper, and a rift forms in their yard. Grandma asks what it is. Dojin tells them it's dangerous, to stay inside, then bolts straight into it without hesitation, as they showed it. At the Seoul Hero Association, alarms light up. A new rift detected in Mappo. First one in 63 days. The White Lion Guild is closest. Dispatch immediately. The rift formed in a private residence, which is bad. Very bad. If a civilian enters first, no one else can go in until they come out. If they die, a monster wave hits the area. They ask if the entrant was identified. Staff reports a man entered to protect his younger sister. No registration, no rank. Civilian. The odds of a monster wave spike to 99.9%. The room goes silent. Elsewhere, a stack of files slams onto the stepmother's desk. She asks what this means. Her guard says it's confirmed. Dojin awakened. Not registered yet, but no doubt. She curses Kong Cholu, furious he didn't finish the job and still took her money. She orders the guard to tell him that if Dojin isn't dead soon, he'll be paying back 10 times the fee. The hunt just escalated. The guard tells her there's no need to rush anything. A rift just opened in Mappo, right at Dojin's house. They confirmed he entered it, and the media will break the story any minute now. She relaxes instantly. If that's the case, she says, they won't have to see that lowborn bastard ever again. The guard agrees. Still, she tells him to keep watch until it's officially confirmed, just in case. Plot armor paranoia never really dies. Inside the rift, Dojan opens his eyes beneath towering trees that blot out the sky. He scans his surroundings slowly, disbelief creeping in before turning into certainty. He knows this place, Padisua Forest. The trees, the wind, the absurdly thick mana saturating the air, it all matches his memories perfectly. If he follows the path ahead, it should lead exactly where he thinks it will. When he spots the world tree standing tall in the distance, he can't help but smile. That tree is an ancient spirit tree, a core of high-purity mana. In his previous world, everything collapsed the moment it burned and the mana flow shattered. Here, it's still standing. He doesn't know why, and right now he doesn't care. Luck is finally on his side. He settles in, grinning, and starts absorbing mana like someone reconnecting to an old power supply they thought was gone forever. He focuses on his breathing. One day passes, then another. Food and water stop mattering. Time blurs completely. 10 days go by with nothing but inhaling, circulating, and pulling mana into his core. When his eyes finally snap open, he's surrounded. Creepy twisted monsters creep closer, and he recognizes them instantly. These are the ones that burned the world tree last time. He mutters that a water attribute sword would be nice, then shrugs it off. Won't matter anyway. Aura floods his hand, pressure bending the air, and he fires a mana wave straight through one of them. The monster screams as its body detonates from the inside. The rest freeze. He calmly explains, mid-combat, that it's a technique that releases mana as compressed chi and explodes on contact. Been a while since he flexed like that. The monsters panic and fire breath attacks from multiple angles. Dojin throws up a barrier instantly, watching their attacks bounce off like fireworks. The world tree is safe. That's what matters. Now he just needs to test how much of his old mana came back. He steps forward, grabs 2 monsters by the jaws, lifts them effortlessly, and slams their heads together. Flames burst out, bodies turn to ash.
Magic crystals drop.
That confirms it. If he keeps killing these, he can farm undying embers. The drop rate used to be generous. He smiles and wonders how many he'll get this time. They swarm him, but it's pointless. His movements are smooth, efficient, almost bored. One by one, they burn, crumble, and vanish into ash until the forest goes silent again. He spots an undying ember on the ground, picks it up, and nods in satisfaction. Crushing it ignites a flame in his palm, which he casually shapes into a burning sphere. He'd love to draw more mana directly from the world tree, but his body can't handle that yet. There's only one option for now. He presses the ember to his chest and switches his mana to fire attribute. Flames erupt from his body, even spilling from his mouth. Embers used to be trash tier to him. Now it takes 10 full minutes to absorb just one. Annoying, but progress is progress. He looks at the dozens scattered around, sweeps his hand and starts absorbing them one by one. For now, he'll keep going as long as his body allows. Power loading. Outside, a crowd gathers around the rift at his house. Bang Xiangwu is losing it, yelling that because of one crazy bastard, the entire neighborhood might be wiped off the map. Kim Hunwoo pushes back, saying the guy entered to save his little sister. Xiangwu scoffs, claiming that's probably just an excuse. He probably heard it's easier to awaken in rift zones and rushed in like an idiot. If he wanted to die, he should have done it somewhere else. Hunwoo asks what the guildmaster said. Xiangwu says the usual, wait for the wave. He also wonders where the guildmaster even is. Rifts popped up at the same time in the US, China, everywhere. First time anything like this has happened. From what he heard, they managed to contain it early overseas. Meanwhile, they're the only ones getting screwed because of one idiot. If that guy shows up alive, Xiangwu swears he'll smash his face in. Time skips, not days. Weeks. It's been 28 days since Dojon entered the rift. The Hero Association issues a level 1 monster wave alert. Preparations begin. If he doesn't come out within 2 more days, it's officially over. Someone turns off the TV mid-report. Hang Chang-up sits back, unimpressed. He tells his subordinate the civilian who entered is definitely Dojon. The assistant confirms it. Chang-up asks the odds of Dojon coming back alive. If he's a civilian, 0.1% would be generous. Chang-up smiles. There's no way Dojon is a civilian. The association just doesn't have the right info. Their people got flattened for a reason. If he's awakened, the odds depend on his rank. Hard to judge. The assistant suggests kidnapping his family. Chang-up considers it calmly. For now, treat them well. If Dojon dies, they sell the organs. If he lives, they'll say they protected them and stack new debt on top. Either way, profit. Inside the rift, Dojon continues absorbing embers. Hundreds of them. Fire mana responds instantly now. Fire resistance skyrockets. Looking at fire attribute alone, he's already surpassed the version of himself people once called the Sword God. And he's not done yet. He places a hand against the world tree and thanks it quietly for helping him once in the past and again now when he needed it most. He gathers every remaining magic core scattered across the forest, then looks back at the tree one last time. He says he may never see it again, but if fate ever puts it in danger, he'll return to protect it and repay the monarch level power. When he steps out of the rift that night, the world feels wrong. Too quiet. No guards, no heroes, no spectators within a kilometer. Looks like everyone evacuated, bracing for a monster wave that never came. He senses 2 familiar presences nearby and moves instantly, spotting Wu and Hunwoo. Same outfits as before. Same guys. Getting caught now would be annoying. He gathers fire in his palm and lobs it into the air like a casual toss. It arcs, lands exactly where he wants, pauses for dramatic effect, then detonates into a massive explosion. People start shouting, calling the fire department, while Wu and Hunwoo rush toward the blast, confused about why a fire would start out of nowhere. Dojon watches from a distance, satisfied. Shot placement perfect. He mutters that even Kusk would have appreciated that one. In his old world, Kusk was the strongest fire mage alive. Hunwoo suddenly freezes and tells Wu to wait. The rift feels wrong. It's fading. They sprint back just in time to see it disappearing entirely. Wu stops short, realizing what that means. The rift was cleared. Solo. Dojon heads up the stairs nearby, takes one last look, and vanishes into the city. The next morning, the news breaks it. The Mapo Rift vanished after 29 days. The Hero Association had prepared for a wave, but the gate closed instead. Investigation ongoing, they also mention a mysterious fire that broke out at a nearby junkyard. On the street, people gossip saying the guy who entered probably died and deserved it for being reckless at. Dojon listens quietly, thinking how insane it is to talk like that about someone who could have died saving the entire area. If he hadn't cleared it, Seoul would be a war zone right now. He looks up at the sky, wondering if he'll ever see the world tree again, then remembers there's something else he has to protect first. He walks into the loan shark office. 2 men are smoking inside, laughing about how since Dojon's dead, the grandma and the kid are finished too. The boss isn't ordinary, they say. He'll squeeze 10 times the debt out of them. They shrug about the old woman, but grin talking about the kid, saying she'll grow up pretty and be useful in various ways. Before they finish the sentence, Dojon asks calmly where their boss is. Silence. Outside, a car pulls up. Chang-up walks in humming, saying that now the bastard's dead, he can finally sleep easy. He asks about the schedule. Lunch with CEO Bake. Nothing in the evening. He tells Inu to call Madame Kang and get the new girls ready. He starts up the stairs, and one of his men gets thrown past him into the wall, blood splashing everywhere. Chang-up breaks into a sweat just before he's slammed face first into the floor. He looks up. Dojin's standing there, alive, very alive. Dojin tells him to crawl like a dog from where he is. He leans back in a chair, feet on the table, like he owns the place, while Chang-up shakes uncontrollably. Dojin asks if he went deaf. He tells him to bark. Trash like him doesn't deserve to be treated like a person. Chang-up lets out a weak bark, then another. Then he starts barking loudly, desperately, pouring everything into it while his men stand frozen, forced to watch. Dojin rolls the chair closer and tells him to bark louder. He says Chang-up acted polite when scared, then tried to stab him the moment he saw an opening. Despicable. Did he really think this was Dojin's first time dealing with garbage? Like Hib. Chang-up screams that he'll be loyal, like a dog, begging to be spared. Dojin kicks him in the face, sending him flying, blood spraying across the room. He tells him not to work under bastards like that anymore. Backstabbing higher-ups is normal for people like him, so if he wants to do it, go ahead. Inu nervously intervenes, saying Chang-up has wide connections. If he suddenly disappears, it'll draw attention. Please spare him this once. Dojin asks why he's being annoying. These are the same people who stuff bodies into drums and dump them in the ocean. He knows all of it. If they don't like his solution, he can always throw them into a monster gate. The room goes deathly quiet. Chang-up crawls forward, bowing repeatedly, screaming that he'll do anything for the rest of his life. Dojin sighs and says it'd be cleaner to just cut him off now. Maybe he's getting soft. He reaches out a hand. Chang-up's face lights up, promising loyalty, calling him master. And Dojin incinerates his hand on contact. The flesh burns away instantly, crumbling to ash as Chang-up screams in agony. Dojin tells him this is his last chance. If even a scratch appears on his family, everyone here dies. He orders them to protect his family 24 hours a day for the rest of their lives. Officially, Dojin is declared missing, vanished alongside the rift. Government, Hero Association, news outlets all agree. Dead man status confirmed. And as the Dutch controversy's first entertainment, please put us up in mind for your property. Canty wasn't better than Maitreya, making you feel better by day. Being dead keeps things quiet. Revealing himself now would only cause problems. On the bright side, Chang-up will find them a new place soon. Until then, he'll take it easy and prepare to move. Yoon-young eats happily and says she's excited they're moving. Dojin smiles and tells her that means she'll get to go to kindergarten like other kids. For the first time in a long while, the future doesn't look like a battlefield. Yoon-young goes quiet. That one lands hard. She looks down and admits she doesn't want to go to kindergarten. Other kids will make fun of her for not having a mom or dad. Dojin doesn't force it. He tells her it's okay, she doesn't have to go, and there's no reason to deal with kids like that. They'll skip it and go straight to school next year instead. Her face lights up instantly. She asks if she really can skip kindergarten, and he nods, already thinking about a good private school where nobody messes with her. The night before, Dojin asked Inu if they seriously expected his family to stay in a motel. Inu said the building belonged to their company and was secure, but Dojin shut that down immediately. When he opened the door instead, Yoon-young ran straight into him, hugging him and crying, while Grandma just stood there, relieved he was alive. He'd been surprised by how hard it hit him, then smiled and said he was glad to be back. Back in the present, Yoon-young looks up and asks if he's a hero. When he asks if she'd like that, she immediately says no. Heroes fight scary monsters and sometimes die, and she and Grandma just want him to stay with them for a long time. He starts to answer, then stops. In his old world, he'd been one of the last humans alive, fighting non-stop until he forgot what peace even felt like. Now he has people beside him again, and for the first time, protecting a small, quiet happiness feels worth everything. At the Korean Hero Association, founder Nadiwang asks if they really still know nothing about the rift. An official apologizes, saying nothing is confirmed yet. He frowns, explaining that a rift closing on its own is dangerous because it might reopen just as easily. She agrees too quickly and says it might have been better if it caused a wave. He shuts that down instantly, telling her to watch her mouth. From a public safety standpoint, this was the best outcome. Nadiwang is one of the 100 most respected heroes on the planet. He could win the presidency in a landslide or crush conglomerates if he wanted, but he doesn't care about power. He only cares about preventing rift disasters. He tells her to investigate carefully and take her time. When she mentions the homeowner agreed to sell the land, he tells her to pay well above market and include condolence money for the family's loss. He checks his laptop and notices rifts appeared in multiple countries at the same time. That's not normal. China and the US have things under control, but the UK is struggling. Their top heroes are tied up elsewhere. Then an alert pops up, and he mutters an unfiltered "oh shit." A rift wave outbreak just started in the UK. Meanwhile, Dojan heads downtown to the magic gem shop. The delinquent at the counter greets him with one hand hidden under the table, then realizes who it is and screams for the manager. A new manager looks up from the newspaper and asks if Dojan is the guy who forced them into price cuts while he was gone. Dojan nods and says perfect, because he's got a lot to sell and wants someone with authority. He drops the bag on the counter. It lands heavy. The manager scoffs, saying it's probably full of low-grade junk and they don't do business with him anymore. Take it and leave. Dojan asks calmly if he's really refusing the trade. The manager doubles down, saying a 1% commission is a massive loss and he won't deal with Dojan again. Dojan laughs and tells him he'll regret it. The manager launches into a speech about supply chains and market logic, saying it's pointless explaining it to someone uneducated. Dojan kicks the bag. Stones spill out across the counter. The room freezes. One of them is a hero-tier magic stone, the kind that doesn't even have a set market price yet. Owner's choice? Absolute lottery drop. Hero stones became legendary after a lab accident in Mexico awakened a cartel boss mid-experiment. Since then, they've been known to trigger awakenings and massively boost mana. Ultra luxury, ultra dangerous, ultra rare. The manager and the clerk just stare. Dojan tells them to put the stones back in the bag. He's leaving. Suddenly, the manager backpedals hard, saying he didn't know Dojan was chill like that, hands him a coffee like a peace offering, and asks him to wait. While the delinquent carefully wipes down the stones, the manager complains the commission is way too low. Dojan says if he doesn't like it, forget it. The manager bows immediately and apologizes. Dojan cuts him off. He's sick of apologies. Either match the rate or don't. The clerk mutters that Dojan's rude, but the manager ignores it and starts yapping again. Dojan stops him mid-sentence. He doesn't want the speech. If the rate's not 1%, he's gone. The manager begs for 9%. Dojan says then don't take it. The number keeps dropping. 8, 7, 6. The haggling drags on so long, the clerk mentally checks out. Finally, the manager drops to his knees. Dojan sighs and says he'll be generous. 1%. Deals back on the table. The manager agrees, internally combusting, and Dojan casually mentions he's got about 7 more bags just like that waiting to be sold. Both the manager and the clerk freeze in perfect sync, jaws dropping as reality hits. The manager snaps back into motion, barking for the contract immediately, hands shaking like he just saw the final boss spawn in the tutorial zone. Checking his balance, Dojan notes that at this pace, that absurdly expensive 110 billion house isn't some distant fantasy anymore. Still, gates alone won't get him the truly high-grade stones he needs. Rift zones are where the real loot lives. If only he could roam them freely without the entire world breathing down his neck. Both phones start blaring at once. The manager mutters about a possible wave, and Dojan pulls up the news to see the UK just got hit with a rift break. Reading the headlines, Dojan clicks his tongue, calling them pathetic. Back then, he'd rush into any rift, anywhere, no matter the country or the rules. That life's over. He's not burning himself out for people who wouldn't spit on him if he died. Cut to dinner. He takes Grandma and Yunyang out to a nice restaurant, good meat, clean tables, no stress. Grandma whispers it's too expensive and they don't need this, but Dojan tells her he made serious money and to eat as much as she wants. Yunyang takes a bite, eyes lighting up instantly, declaring it fire. Grandma still hesitates, so Dojan orders even more without asking. She asks how they're supposed to eat all of it, and he tells her to eat until she's full. Yunyang happily offers her a piece, insisting it's amazing. Grandma finally tries it, smiles, and agrees. That's when a familiar presence walks in. Haiyan Juan. She calls out to Dojan and asks for a word. He turns, unimpressed, and asks if she can't see he's eating with his family, telling her to come back after they're done. She pauses, genuinely wondering if he even knows who she is, then quietly moves to the waiting area. Whispers ripple through the restaurant. Global superstar. Korea's 4th S-Rank hero. Easily top tier in every Reddit beauty ranking imaginable. People wonder who could possibly make her wait. Sitting there, Juyan thinks back. 2 months ago, this man walked out of a gate alive. Recently, he was declared dead in a rift. Now he's here, alive, calm, and radiating pressure. Hitting S-Rank in under 2 months is unheard of. Even oil tycoons needed years and absurd resources. There's no way he's normal. Chairs scrape back as Dojan's family gets ready to leave. Juyan stands, but someone else cuts in first. A man steps forward, sneering, saying he thought he was seeing things. Kang Cho-lu. He asks how Dojan crawled out of that gate, calling him a cockroach. Juyan stiffens. Of all people, him? Dojan brushes Cho-lu aside like lint and asks Juyan if she had business with him. No time for this clown. Cho-lu freezes when he notices Juyan. Dojan tells her he'll hear her out later and asks for a favor first. Grab a taxi for his family. She agrees instantly. Outside, she reassures Grandma and Yunyang, waves goodbye, and calls Yunyang cute. Inside, a loud slap cracks through the room. Cho-lu just got smacked hard enough to turn heads. Cho-lu snarls, asking if Dojan wants to die. A waitress begs them not to fight. Cho-lu shoves her aside, yelling for her to get lost. She falls. The restaurant erupts. People scream. Cho-lu shouts back, asking if they all want to die. Dojan steps in and punches him square in the face. Cholu's head snaps back, knees buckling as he drops. Dojan asks calmly if he's the one who locked him in that gate to die. Cholu spits back insults, mocking his past and sneering about his stepmother's involvement. Dojan pulls out his phone, hits record, and tells him to say it again. Cholu laughs, lights his hand on fire, and throws a flaming punch, screaming insults about Dojan's real mother. The punch never lands. Dojan deflects it with one hand. Cholu flies backward, stunned at his attack bounced. Dojan doesn't stop. He closes in and beats him down. Strike after strike. Absolute domination. The waitress fumbles for the police, but Juyeon calmly takes the phone, telling her she'll handle it. Watching the one-sided beatdown, Juyeon realizes something's wrong. Cholu is B rank, same as Dojan on paper. But this isn't even close. This is bullying. Could he be A rank? No. Even that doesn't explain it. She yells for Dojan to stop before he kills him. He pauses, lets Cholu collapse, and turns to her. She warns him. Cholu's cousin is Kang Yeoneo, an S rank. Dojan says he knows. She's stunned. That connection is the only reason Cholu survived this long. Dojan shrugs like it's trivia. Reckless? Maybe. But the debt isn't paid yet. Juyeon doesn't sugarcoat it. What Dojan just did is dangerous. She gets the grudge, at least enough to know this doesn't end cleanly. If he thinks Kang Yeoneo will let this slide, he's dead wrong. Dojan laughs it off. She asks if he's seriously not scared, and he shrugs, saying not really. What actually bothers him is how well she reads him. They lock eyes for a moment. Nearby, the waitress is crying, confused, thinking Juwon was supposed to handle the situation. Juwon apologizes calmly for dropping in unannounced and explains she's here on her uncle's behalf. He owns Gas and Stone Man, the shop where Dojan's been dumping mana crystals. She says she wants to buy all of them herself. Dojan asks how much she's talking about. She answers simply, all of it. He laughs, saying that's not a small amount. She replies that S-rank assets are beyond imagination. Dojan agrees to sell, but only on one condition. He leans in slightly, eyes sharp, and says it's nothing big, just something she can do. Something easy. Cut to his stepmother absolutely losing it, smashing bottles and screaming that she was told he was dead. He went into a rift. He wasn't supposed to come back. She throws another bottle at her bodyguard and misses by a mile. He apologizes, saying even the Hero Association believed Dojan was gone. She snaps at him to stop making excuses and asks what he plans to do about it. He hesitates, then says something more urgent came up. Dojan defeated Kang Cholu. That makes her pause. If Dojan went after him, maybe he knows something. Her hands start shaking. If her husband or father hears about this, it's a problem. Still, she can smooth things over, but if the media gets wind of it, the company's stock could tank. She orders him to keep all outlets in line, pull ads, cut ties, silence everything. He tells her the police and press are already handled. She exhales, says good work, then frowns. That's not a real solution. He lowers his voice and tells her Cholu's cousin is Kang Yeoneo, BS rank. Publicly, Yeoneo played the caring cousin, but in reality, Cholu did his dirty work. Always did. She decides they need to meet Yeoneo immediately and set the stage properly. Now, Manager Lee adds another problem. Chang-up betrayed them. He's reportedly protecting Dojan's family now. That pushes her over the edge. She orders him to call Prosecutor Park. Chang-up needs to pay for switching sides. Meanwhile, at a Rift Zone checkpoint, the briefing runs. 37 Rift Zones currently active in South Korea, 5 stabilizing into gates. The rest are restricted scheduled hunts only, Association heroes exclusively. Juyeon's ID gets scanned and cleared. They wish her a safe trip. Dojan walks beside her, noting there's only one entrance and security's tight even for her. One of the raiders, Jang Inju, A rank and guildmaster of Cleomai, comments that it's unusual for Juyeon to personally push a Rift Zone hunt. Juyeon shrugs it off, saying she just felt like doing something fun. She glances back at Dojan. His condition was simple. Let him into a Rift Zone and he sells her all his magic crystals at market price. When she asked why, he said he'd make more money hunting anyway. She thinks he's insane for risking this much just for money, but she doesn't really care. She needs crystals regardless. It works out. Past the tunnel, Inju blushes and asks who Dojan really is. Juyeon, mildly irritated, says he's just someone she knows. Inju doesn't buy it and asks if he's her boyfriend. Juyeon shuts that down instantly. She just owed him a favor. That alone stuns Inju. How does an S rank owe someone anything? The air suddenly tightens. Everyone feels it, even Dojan. Formation snaps instantly as a massive shape dives overhead. Inju shouts the name, Cockatrice. Juyeon starts calling out defensive instructions, but Dojan is already moving. He sprints past her, launching himself straight at the monster like he didn't hear a single word. She shouts his name. Too late. Aura floods his fist mid-air. Fire ignites around it. He slams the punch straight into the cockatrice's face. The impact detonates. The monster crashes into the ground hard enough to shake the area. Dojan lands calmly in front of it. A deep fist-shaped crater caves in its skull. The team stares, stunned, wondering if it just died in one hit. Dojan says not yet. He lifts his foot and finishes it, stomping the life out of the thing like it's an inconvenience. Silence. Someone quietly asks who the hell he is. Juyeon answers flatly. Just a strong guy. Inju freaks out, asking if she's serious. Very few heroes can drop a cockatrice in one blow. Julian tries to downplay it, saying even her sister could knock one down. Inju isn't buying it. That punch was mid-air. No wind-up. No dodge chance. One hit. Ju-on's mind races. Whatever happened to Dojan in that rift changed him completely. She turns back and announces they're changing plans. She needs to head deeper. She approaches Dojan, who immediately says he's not sharing loot with anyone who didn't help. She waves it off. That's not why she's here. She tells him his strength doesn't belong in this zone. Does he want to go deeper? Dojan smiles. That sounds fun. She tells him she knows the route and to stick close if he doesn't want to get lost. And just like that, the hunt escalates. Ju-on takes off first, clearly testing him. Dojan crouches for half a second, then launches after her like physics just got optional. The rest of the group nearly stumbles from the shockwave. Inju watches them disappear and mutters that if Ju-an is a bullet, then this guy is straight up light speed. Taxia, one of her guildmates, asks why they're not following. Inju looks at him like he's stupid and asks if he honestly thinks they can keep up. He answers his own question instantly. Hell no. So that's that. They'll hunt like normal and camp near the entrance. She looks down at the cockatrice's corpse and sighs. A ranks get praised everywhere, but in front of S ranks, they're background characters at best. And Dojan? He doesn't even feel like he fits on that scale. She can't tell how strong he really is, and that scares her more than it excites her. Deep in the forest, Ju-on runs at full speed and glances back, thinking she might need to slow down. Dojan is right behind her, close enough to talk, casually asking if she can go any faster. She yelps and almost trips. She's top 2 in Korea for speed, and he still caught her like it was nothing. What is this guy? Dojan suddenly slows, jogs backward in front of her, and says she's slower than he expected. It honestly felt like she was trying to shake him. She's breathing hard, cheeks flushed, snapping back, asking why he'd think that. He doesn't answer. He looks up instead, spots a mountain in the distance, and asks what that is. She tells him that's where the Rift Zone boss lives, Kasarion, a 20-meter wyvern-type monster. She tells him not to even think about fighting it. He asks if it drops a Sangzang-grade mana crystal. She blinks and says yes, that's an imaginary grade stone just below the highest tier, and asks if he's even listening. She calls him a maniac, asking if he's seriously thinking about taking it on. He sprints off. She freezes, then shouts his name and chases after him, but he's already gone, heading straight for the boss like he just heard free loot. When she finally arrives, she stops dead. Kasarion is already on the ground, dead. No struggle, no aftermath. Just a massive corpse and Dojan calmly pulling out a blade to extract the stone. She can't process it. Kasarion is an infamous nightmare boss. Even Park Heel, an S-rank, once tried hunting one with 30 A ranks. Everyone died except him, and he barely escaped. Years later, it took 2 ranks and 200 A ranks to finally bring one down, pinning its wings with spears while bodies piled up. Dojan looks at her and says she didn't help, so she doesn't get a cut. She just stares. If she hadn't seen it herself, she'd call it fake. This man just soloed Kazarion in a single strike. He pulls out the Mana Stone and says he doesn't need a guide anymore. He'll take it from here. She asks if he's really leaving the byproducts behind. Kasarion feathers and claws are academically priceless. He shrugs and says they're not worth his time. It's more efficient to hunt more stones. He tells her to take them as a guide fee. She looks at the corpse, then refuses, saying she doesn't need them either, trying to preserve what little pride she has left. Back at the entrance, backpacks are piled up high, stuffed to the point of bursting. Everyone just stares. One guildmate says the guy borrowed a massive backpack and brought it back completely full. Their entire guild would need at least 20 hours of non-stop hunting to match that haul, probably closer to 3 days. Ignoring speed and quantity, if Julian's right and he really soloed Kasarion without special gear or a suit, then he's the strongest hero in Korea, maybe the world. Julian looks back uneasily as Dojan strolls in carrying even more bags. She tells everyone not to mention a word of this. Even if they did, no one would believe them anyway. The group laughs nervously as Julian walks up to Dojan. From the outside, it looks like flirting, and a few of them joke about it, saying it makes sense she brought him and that he's good-looking enough not to look plain next to her. Inju cuts that thought off immediately. This isn't flirting. He's rough with her in a way nobody ever is. Dojin drops a heavy bag into Julian's arms and walks off without even saying goodbye. Inju blinks and asks if he really just left all the backpacks behind. Julian nods. She told him if people found out he beat Kasarion, he'd be famous overnight. He said he hates attention and told her to handle it. Inju wonders what kind of guy does that. Juyeon wonders the same, feeling the weight of his presence lingering even after he's gone. Cut to a martial arts gym. Park Heel is pounding a sandbag like it owes him money, driving punch after punch into it. An S-rank hero, leader of Sweet Life. A man in a suit tells him to relax, saying hardship only makes the leap greater. Heel smirks, saying he'll make everyone who looked down on him pay. His power is building, and when it explodes, people will kneel. He laughs, saying no one understands Kasarion better than he does. One day, he'll be remembered as the man who took it down with the smallest team. He glances at an old guild photo, remembering how much weaker they became after that disaster, but reassures himself. he's still the only one who can do it. Elsewhere, files and photos are spread across a table. An S-rank hero flips through them calmly. Kang Yonio. He pauses on Dojan's picture and asks if this is the one they're looking for. The hunt is officially on. His subordinate confirms it. Kang Cholu tried to erase Dojan by dumping him into a rift a few months back, but instead of dying, Dojan awakened inside. The client behind it was Hong Hee-ju, executive director of TR Group and second daughter of W Group. Kang Yonyo raises an eyebrow, asking why someone that rich would care about a nobody. The answer is simple. Dojin is an illegitimate child of the Tae family, taken in at 7, then kicked out the moment Hong Hee-ju had her own son. Yonyo smirks, saying family means nothing in rich people circles anyway. As he stands, he asks how much Cholu got paid. 3 billion won. Yonyo clicks his tongue. That's cheap. He heard Cholu ended up half-blind, burned to hell, barely breathing. Whoever did that was ruthless. If it were him, he'd have crushed the skull just to be sure. Then the advisor drops another detail. There's a rumor Juian helped Dojon during that incident. Yonyono snaps instantly, demanding to know why she'd help him and what their relationship is. The advisor says he doesn't know, but Juian's police statement shut the case down quietly. That's enough. Yonyono orders him to find out now. If it's not romance, then it's a deal. The advisor bolts perfectly. Yonyo grips his club, bending it with raw strength, then slams it into the floor. He figures Hong Hee-ju's people will come crawling to him next to finish what Cholu failed to do. Honestly, he doesn't mind. She's loaded. Either way, he's getting paid. That night, Dojin walks alone toward the new place Changup arranged. Rift hunting pays better than gates, no question. But for now, he still needs Juian to move in and out of rift zones. He doesn't like that dependency and starts thinking about how to cut it. Juan already warned him that selling the Kassarian stone would expose who really killed it and drag them into non-stop media hell, so she's holding it for now. That's when he dumped the massive sack into her hands. Temporary solution. He needs a permanent one. He reaches the new house and instantly feels it. Something's off. He checks the shoes by the door. Strangers. He opens it and freezes. Men in black suits fill the room. Yunyong spots him and runs over, hugging him tight. Dojin asks who they are and why they're here. The man in front introduces himself as Prosecutor Park from the Seoul District Prosecutor's Office. He asks if Dojin knows someone named Hwang Chungup. Dojin stays quiet, one arm around his sister. Park announces he's under arrest for involvement in HC Capital's illegal high-interest lending operation, run by Hong Chungup. At the prosecutor's office, Dojin sits alone in an interrogation room. Through the glass, he notices Park walking in mid-call, telling whoever's on the line that both Dojin and Chungup are cooperating nicely and to pass his regards to Director Hong. Then Park turns to him. He says he became a prosecutor to wipe scum like Dojin off the streets. Stack of files slams onto the table. Park says the charges alone would bury him for 10 years, and with Changup's testimony, they've already got everything they need. Dojin calmly reaches over and hits mute. Park snaps, yelling if Dojin thinks he's lying. Dojin cuts him off, asking one question. Hong Hee-ju. It's her, isn't it? Park freezes for half a second, then plays dumb. Who? Dojin repeats the name and goes silent. It's obvious. One side already lost. He stayed quiet to keep things from escalating, but that option's gone. Park leans in, snarling that Korean prosecutors aren't a joke, and Dojin's life is over. Something in Dojan's eyes shifts. Park flinches without realizing why, sweat forming instantly. He curses, raising a hand to strike, but the door opens. Another officer tells him to step outside. In the hallway, Park demands to know if the device is broken. The officer says it's fine. The awakening scanner reads Dojan as a civilian. Park can't accept it. Intel from TR Group said otherwise, and the guy even knows Hong Hee-ju by name. So, who the hell is he? Back in the room, Dojan sits quietly, hands cuffed, finally understanding why people call Korean prosecutors mad dogs. For a moment, he considers leveling the building and disappearing with Grandma and Yunyong. Then the door opens again. Juan walks in. She asks what he's doing here. He says he honestly doesn't know. She tells him not to do anything reckless. If he uses his power now, it'll come back to bite him hard. He asks if she's here to help. She says not exactly. But now that she knows he's innocent, things change. If someone's framing an innocent man, someone has to fix it. He gives a faint smile. She leans in and whispers that the Hero Association is launching an investigation. They're cracking down on illegal hero licenses and monitoring new rifts around Mappo. He cuts her off, asking if his family's okay. She freezes, scoffs, and says, "What is she? His secretary? Why would she be watching them?" But his stare breaks her resolve. She looks away and admits they're safe. He exhales and thanks her, saying he'll repay the favor. She blushes, tells him to be patient, and promises she'll resolve it as fast as possible. The net is tightening, and this time, Dojan isn't planning to slip through quietly. A while later, Juyeon's solution turns out to be clean and brutal. She doesn't bother proving Dojan innocent the normal way. Instead, she exposes Prosecutor Park for bribery and illegal solicitations. The guy gets fired on the spot, dragged through a public investigation, and quietly erased. With that, Dojan is officially cleared of the original charges. The illegal Awakener license still sticks, but Juwon strong-arms it down to probation. Light slap on the wrist. Case closed. As they drive, an emergency broadcast interrupts everything. A never-before-seen monster has appeared in the UK, 15 meters tall, highly venomous. Dojin stares out the window and casually says it's a Mashin. Juin snaps her head toward him, asking how he'd know that. The information is confidential. The monster is brand new. He explains that monster names aren't random. Mana stones contain not just energy, but encrypted data unique to the monster. Decode it, and you get the real name and biological details. In this world, they use science. In his old world, they used magic. Same monsters, same data. He's already familiar with most of them. He adds one more thing, almost as an afterthought. Mashians are easy. Red flower ant extract paralyzes them completely. Julian asks what that is. He tells her it's harmless to humans, but once sprayed, Mashians lock up and can't move. She processes it, then asks the question she's been circling for weeks. What exactly are you, Dojin? He doesn't answer, just keeps staring ahead. She asks if he's even listening. Instead, he asks her what would happen if he killed Hong Hee-ju right now. Cut to Hong Hee-ju sitting behind her desk, chewing her nails raw. Manager Lee finishes explaining Dojan's current status. Julian helping him makes no sense to her. She doesn't know their connection, doesn't know how they even met. Her expression darkens as she snaps a nail clean off. She's furious. None of this was supposed to happen. She demands answers about why Dojan doesn't register as a hero at all. Lee rubs his bald head and admits he doesn't know. Maybe he fooled the scanners. Maybe something else. Just guesses. Hee-ju slams her desk and orders him to bring Kang Yeonyo in immediately. She offers 20 billion, then 30. She doesn't care. Just make him take the job. Elsewhere, Yeonyo hears the number and scoffs. 30 billion isn't enough. He wants double. His assistant hesitates, saying, that's excessive, but Yeonyo waves it off. From Hee-ju's perspective, he's her best option. If he pulls this off, 60 billion is pocket change. He reminds his assistant not to forget that Hyun Yu-yeon is also in play. If you're going up against an S-rank, that's the minimum price. The assistant mutters that Julian is dangerous. Yeonyo slams his foot on the table and calls him an idiot. Not all S-ranks are equal. He could take Julian down in 20 minutes. The assistant immediately agrees, voice shaking. Yeonyo's mood flips again as he asks for updates. The UK branch can't send reinforcements and overseas deployment rules just tightened. Only elite heroes allowed now. Yeonyo curses. Backing out now would make him look weak. He checks his schedule. He's leaving in 3 days. Perfect timing. He wanted to see Takashi anyway. Looking out over the city, he thinks about Mashians, a new monster type with no known weaknesses. If he figures it out first, his value skyrockets. He laughs. In England, chaos erupts. A monster charges through the streets near Big Ben, tearing pavement apart. Heroes move in, blocking its advance. The beast roars, slams its claws down, and shockwaves ripple through the ground. Teams scatter, counterattack, mages fire violet blasts. One clean hit takes the head clean off. The body collapses. Then someone looks up. Lightning flashes. More monsters drop in. A claw descends before anyone can react. And that's how the nightmare starts. Over the next few days, waves of monsters flood the city. British heroes fight hard, but nothing works. No known weakness. The monsters push closer to London. 60 kilometers left, then glitter starts falling from the sky. The monsters freeze mid-step. Their glowing eyes dim. One by one, they scream and collapse. Helicopters hover overhead, cameras rolling, disbelief filling every cockpit. It's working. Julian exhales, realizing Dojan was right. Red flower ant extract neutralizes them completely. Yeonyo glances at her, irritated. There's no way she figured this out alone. Julian just smiles and orders her team to finish the job. She draws her sword and joins the fight herself. Later, outside the airport, reporters swarm. They praise the strategy, call it genius. Rumors spread that it was Julian's idea. Some even claim the British royal family granted her an honor. Cameras flash as Julian walks out with her suitcase. Reporters shout questions about how she discovered the Michonne's weakness and saved the country. Yeonyo appears beside her, smiling for the cameras, asked to share his thoughts as their faces dominate giant city screens. The news reports that a 200-person team, led by hero Julian, returned safely. South Korea's pride saved the United Kingdom. And somewhere off-screen, the real reason just keeps walking forward. Unnoticed. The announcement goes public fast. Red flower ants and their extract are officially declared the method for hunting Mashians. Across the city, people crowd around screens, relief and hype mixing together. Dojan watches the broadcast from within the crowd, expression unreadable, until Kang Yeonyo's interview fills the frame. The moment he appears, Dojan's gaze goes cold. That guy. So he's officially in play now. Cut to a refined dining room, soft lighting, gift boxes neatly placed on the table. Julian slides them forward. A gift for you. Dojin pauses, asking what for. She explains, one is for Yoon-young and Grandma, and the other is his. He immediately grabs it. She crosses her arms, telling him not to open it here, but he ignores her, pulling out neatly folded clothes. He notes they look expensive. Juyeon raises her glass and tells him to accept it as thanks. Because of him, she was recognized as a hero on a global stage. Compared to that, this is nothing. If he needs a car, she'll buy that too. Dojin sets the bag down. If he ever needs something, he'll ask, but he's already been repaid. Her smile fades. She asks if he'd tell her how he knew Michion's weakness. He counters with a simple question. Is there any reason he should? She scoffs and asks what his plans are now, clearly worried he might be targeting Hong Hiju or Yeonyo. He answers casually. First thing, Yeonyo sits at a luxury beach resort that night, surrounded by laughter and excess, yet wearing a dead stare. His thoughts are still in England. Juyeon was different there. Too sharp. Too controlled. She figured out the monster's weakness, but it felt like she was hiding where that knowledge came from. Days earlier, on a private jet, he'd asked her about Dojon, and whether he smashed a prosecutor's head while Chiwoo was present. Juyeon, clearly annoyed, said Chiwoo started it and tried to kill someone in a gate. Yeonyo laughed bitterly, calling Cholu an idiot blinded by pocket change. Then he leaned in, voice cold. Cholu was still his cousin. That meant he had every reason to handle Dojon personally. Juyeon stared back, then turned away, saying he could do whatever he wanted. It wasn't her business. She didn't need to interfere. Yonono wasn't convinced. As he sipped his wine, he became certain something was going on between her and Dojon. Back in England, heroes sweep a zone wrecked by the recent wave, grabbing as many mana stones as possible before a second outbreak. One mutters that if they'd had red flower ant extract earlier, even low-rank heroes could have handled Mashians. His partner nods. If the first wave had been stopped, the place would have been a goldmine. But once a zone gets hit by a wave, it can't be stabilized into a gate anymore. A strange feeling makes one of them glance back. He jokes about bad instincts, but before they can relax, the portal cracks with unnatural lightning. A man in black armor steps out, familiar in a way that sets off alarms. He's not one of ours. One guard says, not a hero, not even a hunter. They reach for their comms. Too late. Green rings of light explode outward, pinning both guards mid-air. One throws daggers, screaming for him to die, but the rings deflect them effortlessly. The armored man calls it pathetic. He clenches his fists, twisting their arms with invisible pressure until bones snap. A floating interface appears as he opens a rift, displaying a percentage. It's been 10 years and it hasn't even reached 20%. Disappointing. He wonders if triggering the dimensional rift failed. For now, he decides to increase his mana. One guard, barely conscious, asks who he is. The man ignores him and tears his limbs off, deciding to start by wiping out the weak bugs. In Paju, South Korea, Dojan walks calmly across an open field when a strange vibration makes him stop. The ground erupts as worm-like monsters burst out surrounding him. He crouches, palm to the earth, counting. 26 within 100 meters. He smiles. A bright sphere of energy forms in his hand. He wonders how many will survive as he drops the fireball into one of the holes. The ground goes silent. Then the explosions chain through the tunnels. Worms are blasted skyward, shredded and burning. Dojin watches them fall, smirking like he isn't about to be covered in monster gore. At Hero Association HQ, someone asks what kind of person they're dealing with. Min Hyungi answers that he's a young man who's extremely difficult to handle. They've confirmed he is, in fact, a hero. Chairman Nadiwanks asks if the measuring device didn't mark him as unmeasurable. The system doesn't know what Dojin is, and that might be the most dangerous part. Vice Chairman Park absolutely hates this. He openly calls Dojin an arrogant brat, saying if the Hero Association asks questions, he should answer like a good little citizen. Chairman Nadiwang raises a finger, silencing him. There's one more thing. What else do we actually know? Min Hyungi answers carefully. Not much, honestly. Everything started with a malicious setup by Kang Cholu. That's the root. As he speaks, the scene cuts back and forth to Dojan tearing through worm monsters, drilling straight through one with concentrated fire like it's wet paper. Hyungi continues. Dojin survived a near-fatal gate incident, took brutal revenge on Cholu, then went on to clear the Mappo rift completely solo. The footage in their heads doesn't match the calm words. Dojin keeps fighting, flames carving tunnels through monster flesh. Hyungi sums it up bluntly. The only thing they're certain of is that Dojin's strength is beyond anything they've dealt with before. Untamable, but absolutely real. Naughty Wang nods. There's more. Dojin applied for hero certification. He listed a guarantor and told them to skip the standard procedures. Naughty Wang asks if that guarantor was someone inside the association. Hyungi nods again. An S-Rank, Hanju Yan. The room goes silent. Out in the field, Dojan finally wipes out the last of the worms and looks down at his new hero ID. Korea's 8th S-Rank. With that card, rift zones are fair game. No escorts, no excuses. Naughty Wang bursts out laughing when he hears. Apparently, Dojan got his license and immediately walked into the Poo rift zone. Amazing, he says. Hyungi agrees. Secho cuts in, agitated. He asks if Dojan went alone, without backup or a guild, into a level 2 rift. Naughty Wang and Hyungi don't even flinch. Secho presses harder. If that kid comes out alive, they should announce him publicly. Promote him. He's an S-Rank now. The world's unstable, and news like that would give people hope. Hainu shuts it down. They can't assume Dojan wants that kind of attention. They should ask him first. Seko snaps back, looking to the chairman for support. Nadiwang thinks for a moment, then places his palm on the table and stands. He decides he'll meet Dojan personally, face to face. Back in the rift, Dojan finds even more worms. He drives his foot through one like he's doing warm-ups. More pour in, trying to surround him. He glances right as one tries to flank, his hand igniting instantly. He surges forward and spins in a full circle, a blazing arc ripping through everything around him. When he lands, the worms collapse one by one. He flicks the remaining fire from his palms, muttering that the mana consumption's higher than expected. Cut to the gas and hero complex. A young guy behind the counter is melting his brain on his phone when Dojan walks in. Without looking up, the kid asks for the reservation name. Dojan drops a heavy bag on the counter and says he wants to see if it can be forged into a weapon. The kid scoffs. Reservation only. Try somewhere else. Dojin points out they were just on the phone and the kid said there were openings. The kid snaps back that they're fully booked and local craftsmen are all top tier. Dojin grabs him by the collar. The kid freaks out, yelling if he's crazy and shouting that he's the owner's son. Dojin tells him to call his father. He came here because he heard this place was the best. Flustered, the kid retreats. Moments later, Cho Chi-win, the famed weapon craftsman, steps out. He studies Dojin and asks who referred him. Haiyan Juan. Chi-win's eyes widen. Is he serious? Dojin reaches into his bag and pulls something out. Chi-win recognizes it instantly. The tip of a giant black killer fang. It's been a long time since he's seen one. Dojin says he wants a sleek sword, as long as possible. Chi-win shakes his head, saying stretching non-metallic materials like that destroys durability. He suggests 2 medium blades instead. Dojin asks if he's not skilled enough. He tells him to connect them. He needs a long blade with maximum mana absorption. The sun explodes, saying his father's weapons already hit at least grade 3 absorption. Dojan calmly picks up one of their swords, says it feels closer to grade 5, and squeezes. The entire room lights up. Then the blade shatters into pieces. Silence. Dojan tells them if they're going to make garbage like that, they should stop now. Chi-win's expression hardens. For the first time, he takes Dojan seriously. The next day, deep in a jungle, a massive monster jolts awake. Red eyes. A thunderous roar. Dojin steps out, annoyed, telling it to shut up. Fire surges around his hand as he charges. The beast stomps toward him, but Dojin dodges, launches into the air, and dives back down, slicing clean through its shoulder. The monster rages, ripping a tree from the ground and hurling it. Dojin doesn't stop. He flashes past again, carving it down, only for the wounds to regenerate instantly. It's stronger now. Dojin clicks his tongue and presses harder, driving fire straight into its spine. Flames engulf the creature. He blinks around it, then slices its head clean off. Keeping a mana blade active that long is exhausting, he admits. But it's worth it. He pulls out a jar and collects the Cyclops' blood. Later, back at the shop, Dojan sets the jar down on the counter. The Cyclops smoothie sloshes inside, and the upgrade path just got a lot more violent. The son just stares at the jar, completely lost, and asks what it even is. Dojin doesn't bother explaining. He tells him to call his father. With this, fusing 2 black killer fangs will be easy. As he turns to leave, the clerk shouts after him, demanding to know where he got something like that. Dojin doesn't slow down. He already has the core materials. To push mana absorption even higher, he needs one last thing. And there's only one place on Earth where it exists. Cut to a luxury resort. Juyeon's phone rings. Dojin. She answers casually, and he says one word. Brazil. Her relaxed expression vanishes instantly. By the pool, she asks Inju if the association already dispatched heroes to Brazil. Inju confirms it. Brazil's government and the association launched a massive joint operation to shut down a rift zone. The monsters there are brutal, but the mana stone drops are insane. The pay is just as crazy, so Cleome decided to join. Inju smirks and nudges Juyeon, saying they should go together. And bring that man. The 8th rank everyone's talking about. It is him, right? Juyeon dodges, saying she's not sure. Inju laughs and teases her about the rumors, saying people think they've got a special relationship. Flustered, Juyeon snaps that Inju can go if she wants. Inju cheers, but Juyeon admits she has no idea whether Dojan will even show up. Back at the forge, the old smith stares at the materials in awe. Non-metal components bonding cleanly using Cyclops' blood as a binder. He asks how Dojin even figured this out. The blade can reach around 180 centimeters, he says. Dojin politely asks for a 2-handed form, but with a grip balanced enough for one-handed use. The smith pauses. He expected a thud, but either Dojin has manners, or this sword actually matters to him. When Dojin asks about the timeline, the answer is at least a month. He wonders if grade 7 will even hold up to his full output. Then he tells the smith to shape the base for now. He still needs to collect one more special material. The smith watches him go, uneasy, realizing Dojin might actually be serious about hunting that thing. A few days later, a luxury car rolls into a parking lot. Dojin thanks Juyeon for it and says he'll use it. She waves it off like it's nothing. He eyes the car, noting it's worth about 100 million. Appropriate, he says. She asks if something's going on with the association. He tells her they're planning to reveal his identity, so he made them pay for it. She mutters that Chairman Nadiwang always plays fair. Dojin says the chairman understood. Deal's done. He gets in. Juan sighs, telling him to act more responsibly, and remember she's his guarantor. Inside the car, she adds that the association is in chaos. The Brazil stronghold collapsed, and once things stabilize, they'll resume talks with the chairman. Brazil, he repeats, then asks if she's going. She hesitates, nods, and asks why. He turns to her and asks her to go with him. Her face turns pink. Across the city, Hong Heeju's face turns the same color, but for very different reasons. She's screaming, asking how much more Yonio wants. He leans back, relaxed, telling her this isn't the time to be cheap. She reminds him she already paid 30 billion up front and demands to know when he'll actually do something. Then he drops it. Her intel is outdated. Dojan is an S-rank now. Korea's 8th. Heeju goes pale, accusing him of lying. Yonio tells her to wait. The news will break. The news will break soon. The information wasn't cheap. He paid for it himself. She slams the table, panicking, saying if that's true, she can't control him anymore. She offers more money. Anything. Just do something. Yonio tells her money matters, but long-term partnerships matter more. She begs him to handle it however he sees fit. A notification pops up on his phone. He grins and says the heavens are on her side today. There's a perfect chance to kill Dojan coming up. The next day, a flight packed with 5 S-ranks heads for Brazil. Social media explodes, calling the operation a guaranteed win. On board are Jang Xiango, who once carried his team solo. Park Heel, who people say is only there for money since his guild collapsed. Hyun Juan, universally agreed to be insanely attractive. Kong Yonyo, also just there for money. And finally Dojin, quietly eating noodles while people argue online about who he even is. The plane lands in Brazil. In Sao Paulo, the Brazilian Hero Association confirms the Korean team arrived. Some of them skipped the hotel and went straight for a rift. Fast response, as expected from Korea. Still, the control room is tense. What if the Koreans figure it out? Secrets don't last forever. They decide to keep everything sealed until the operation ends. The reason for the panic becomes clear. Brazil's national treasure hero Moraes was killed. Not by a monster, by something humanoid. The black box footage is crystal clear. It happened near the Santa Rain Rift, and no one knows what actually did it. In a dim briefing room, Juyeon asks where Dojin is. The answer catches her off guard. He's still on the plane. That makes no sense. They all landed together, but Dojin apparently decided his destination was further south. Santa. Juyeon's expression tightens immediately. Santa Rain isn't just dangerous. It's the place even Brazil's association told them not to touch. And he's going to explore it. We all have it. Back at the briefing, an associate runs through the official plan. 2 days to acclimate. Then each team deploys to their assigned rifts. Juyeon doesn't wait for the rest. She leaves the hotel and jumps into a taxi, but Yonio catches the door and asks where she thinks she's going when the operation hasn't even started. She says there's somewhere she needs to check. When she names Santa, his eyes narrow. Even the locals avoid that place. By the time Juin arrives, Dojan is already there. She demands to know why he rushed in. Without even turning around, he tells her he didn't rush. They were late. If he told them sooner, she snaps, they would have arrived earlier. She asks if that's really the only reason he crossed an ocean. He asks if he needs another. She reminds him she's 3 years older. He asks what that has to do with anything. She tells him to show respect. He fires back asking if she wants things to get awkward and says if she wants formal speech, she can do it by herself. The team exchanges looks. One whispers that it feels like the newbie is leading. Another corrects him. There are levels to newbies, and this one's different. Juin asks if he plans to shut the rift down. He says no. Why would he? He's here to squeeze it dry. As she's trying to figure out what kind of materials he's after, a massive claw bursts out of the darkness. Someone barely blocks it and yells for formation. The armored creature steps forward. One of them mutters that it looks worse than the photos. Dojin tells them to move. He draws his blade, remembering Chiwin's words. Getting a blue Croco heart barehanded won't be easy. That's why the old man lent him his prize sword. Dojin vanishes. The monsters don't even realize what happened until slashes bloom across their bodies all at once. One hero grins, saying he knew it. The rest just stare as the Crocos collapse. Later, they sit around campfires, still processing it. They talk about how Dojin wiped out blue Crocos like they were trash mobs. Counting how many he killed isn't even possible. Someone mentions, quietly, that this is the same guy who soloed the giant Caesarian bird. Definitely not a normal hero. In the background, Dojin calmly cooks thick slabs of meat in a pan like this is a picnic. Juyen asks if he's done collecting hearts. He points to several ice containers stacked behind him. She asks what he plans to do with all of them, then notices what he's grilling. He tells her it's blue Croco meat. She's shocked. He even offers her some. If she doesn't want it, fine. Inju wonders if it's even edible. Juyen, to everyone's surprise, takes a piece with chopsticks and eats it. It's good. Inju stares, then asks Dojin what his secret is. How did he charm Juyen like that? She's never even dated. He doesn't answer right away, thinking back to his past life at the Imperial Academy, where he was barely 20 and already infamous for leaving noble daughters in emotional ruin. Inju yells at him to answer. He finally looks at her and says, "Honey doesn't chase bees." The silence afterward is lethal. Inju freezes. Julian spits her food out. Cringe damage, critical hit. Elsewhere in Sao Paulo, Yonio's assistant reports in. Yonio can't read Julian at all. The operation hasn't started and she already ran off with Dojin, dragging her guild along. He asks if there's anything special near Santa. The assistant says the Brazilian Association only called it extremely dangerous. Yonio's phone rings. It's Hong Hee-ju. She screams the second he answers, demanding to know if Dojan is still alive. Yonio tells her to calm down and stop yapping like an alarm clock. She snaps back that her father has probably already seen the news. Dojian is an S-Rank now. Soon, he'll want to bring him back into the family. Yonioto smiles slowly. Looks like Brazil just became a lot more interesting. Yonio tells Hong Hee-ju it's no wonder she's panicking. After all, she finally found herself a proper business partner, and he's not about to disappoint her now. Dojin will never return alive from Brazil. Hearing that, she finally exhales in relief and says that's exactly what she wanted to hear. Yonio tells her to hang up and contact Takashi immediately, because Dojan just signed his own death sentence by walking into an isolated zone where accidents happen all the time, making their job stupidly easy. Deep in the jungle, Dojan and the others move even further in. Juan asks if he's really planning to keep going, since the association reports even more dangerous monsters ahead. He asks what kind, and she mentions a lynx. He keeps walking like she didn't even say anything. She's not surprised. Of course he already knows. She decides not to stop him, but hands him earplugs anyway, explaining that if he hears the owl lynx's cry, his mind could be paralyzed instantly. He tells her there's no need and keeps moving. She calls after him not to underestimate them, but he never turns back. That night, the jungle feels heavier. A presence watches them from above. Red eyes glow in the darkness as a lynx sits in a tree and lets out a piercing howl. The sound crashes into the group like a mental hammer. Inja yells for everyone to cover their ears. Everyone does, except Dojin. He's locked in a dead stare with the monster, not flinching. The howling continues, ripping through their heads, and they can't understand why Dojan isn't affected at all. He calmly picks up a rock, floods it with fire, and yeets it straight at the lynx mid-howl. Skill issue. The monster screeches, the sound cuts off, and it leaps away. Dojin instantly chases. Inju asks what he just did to stop the cry, but before anyone gets an answer, they catch up and see a full pack of lynxes surrounding him. The one he hit earlier limps slightly, eyes burning with revenge. It locks onto Julian and catches her gaze. Her body stiffens instantly. Dojin steps in front of her and tells her she was wrong. It's not the cry that paralyzes you, it's the eyes. He tells everyone to close theirs for a moment and unsheathes his sword. The air heats up. He swings, and a ring of fire erupts around him, controlled and terrifying. He names the technique calmly. First form, Kira Magro Ruckle, an attack born from a single point. He aims the blade forward. A fireball condenses, compresses, then detonates outward as a blazing beam. The attack is so fast the lynxes don't even react. The explosion wipes them out completely, carving a massive trench through the jungle floor. When the smoke clears, scorched bodies lie steaming. Julian and Inju just stare, mouths open. One lynx barely survives, shaking as Dojin approaches. It tries to paralyze him with its gaze again. Didn't ask. Didn't read. He slices its head off cleanly and says the attempt was pathetic, but the eyes will be useful later. They keep moving through the jungle like nothing happened. The team looks at Dojan differently now. Not human, someone mutters, but in a good way. They wonder if he's stronger than legends like Shabrial Pants, maybe even Kane Lester. Strongest in the world feels like a stretch, but not impossible. From the water nearby, zombie-like monsters begin crawling out. Someone jokes they're brainless trash. Dojin proves it by punching one so hard its head explodes. Another rushes him and gets folded mid-step. The last one gets stomped flat. Average day in his tutorial zone. Julian finally asks about his swordsmanship. Where did he learn it? That flame control earlier was insane. He asks if she wants to learn.
Of course she does. He tells her that in a peaceful world like this, she wouldn't need it, and even if she learned it, she'd never have a reason to use it.
She gets annoyed and tells him there's a limit to how much she can be ignored. She's S-Rank too. They lock eyes. She says she understands now what he really thinks of her. Inju groans, calls them childish, and tells them to just leave the rift already. They head for the exit. Thanks to Dojan, the zone is basically cleared with 0 casualties. Next run will be easy. As Inju steps through the rift, voices erupt outside. Japanese, she doesn't understand the words, but she recognizes the tone immediately. When she steps out, she freezes. Dojan is holding Julian protectively. In front of them stands Ryoma Takashi, former mafia, now S-Rank guildmaster of Teoku. Takashi says today he finally gets to have some fun with Julian, and Dojan is in the way. He steps close and tells Dojan to get lost or he'll kill him. Dojan smirks and says it looks like even his own men don't like him much. Julian asks if he understands Japanese. He says roughly, in reality the old Dojan studied it and the memories came with the body. Takashi's goons start yapping, demanding an apology and explaining who their boss is. Dojan cuts them off, saying he's not interested and telling them to leave. Inju recognizes Takashi immediately. Top 5 guild in Japan. Infamous temper. She tries to calm things down, but Takashi snaps at her, calling her trash and telling her to wait her turn. He grabs Julian's arm and tells him, "That's enough." Dojan steps in and immediately gets punched across the face. Takashi tells him to sit tight, saying he'll deal with him later, so Dojan decides to play along. He snaps back with one clean hit, twisting Takashi's head violently and sending him flying into his own men. Dojan tells everyone to back off. The thug threw the first punch. This is self-defense. The small fries freeze. Takashi laughs, tells them to stay out of it, and starts taking off his jacket as his aura flares, muscles bulging like a final boss intro. Julian looks at Dojan calmly and tells him to half-kill him.
And Dojan smiles like he just got permission.
If you're hyped for what happens next, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment, because the next episode is about to go absolutely feral.